Good Monday morning. This is the Great Basin Smoke Dispersion Briefing for this Monday, December 17th. Looking at precipitation for the past 7 days on the left, you can see very little across the southern half of the Great Basin. Light amounts, a tenth of an inch to a quarter of an inch as you head further north and see the different shades of blue. In the areas of green, about a half inch of precipitation or snowfall's liquid equivalent. In terms of percent of normal, you can see it's below normal for just about the whole area, especially in the southern half where basically near zero due to zero precipitation. So a rather dry week. Something we look at, it's called the eddy. It's basically an indicator of the 1 month drought conditions across the region, sometimes referred to as flash drought. You can see that some of our southern areas of Nevada starting to creep into that first and second category. Just a hint that in dormant brush areas where there is still a decent crop of grass carryover fuel, a wind event could play a role significantly in some fires, but no real concerns here. Most of it's confined to far northern California, not into Oregon. Looking at new snowfall over the past 72 hours, just some light amounts, a couple of inches across the higher terrain of Idaho. Basically, it's been it the last 3 days. In terms of snow cover really good here across western Wyoming, as typical this time of year, maybe 40 to 50 inches. Darker purple here, about 20 to 30 inches across the mountains of Idaho, as well as the Uintas and the higher spine of the Wasatch, and also across some of the highest terrain of the Rubies. Elsewhere, just scant amounts until you get to the Sierra. In terms of satellite imagery in upper air, we see that we have a trough of low pressure approaching, some clouds coming in. This is dislodging the high pressure overhead. This will improve air quality, improve transport winds, not bring too much in the way of precipitation, but this system here and the other one waiting in the wings should keep air quality fairly good for seasonality for this time of year. So we look at later today. There's some cloud cover and moisture through here. Can't rule out some light spotty precipitation, especially across the mountains, but nothing too heavy. Winds aloft are primarily westerly. You can see dispersion-wise, the worst dispersion is in the purple. Otherwise, red to yellow to white indicates improving areas of overall dispersion. We can break it down by both horizontal dispersion via transport winds on the left, mainly southwest at 5 to 15 miles per hour, but some higher gusts, and also vertical mixing heights, which with the cloud cover are the limiting factor today in some areas. Now for tomorrow, we see that some clouds are thicker here with this next front, mostly across Idaho, not really too much into Nevada or Utah, getting into western Wyoming as well. So there'll be some limitations on dispersion based mostly on the fact that the ground won't be heating up too much to mix things vertically. But if we look at transport winds, we'll see that they are starting to improve, and as well as the mixing heights as well. Now looking further down the road, as we go into Wednesday, high pressure starts to build in here a little bit, so we start seeing some warmer, drier conditions into the southern portion of the Great Basin, especially Nevada, but still we're not under the center of the high. You can see these winds aloft. These wind barbs are still 40 knots. This is just above ridge top levels across the highest peaks. So dispersion best across the eastern areas, decreasing as you head further west and south closer to that high pressure area. You can see the vertical mixing is the main limitation factor here on the right. Transport winds, again, limited across parts of the Great Basin across Nevada, but pretty strong across the eastern Great Basin, as well as parts of Idaho and Wyoming as well. Looking at the clearing index for today, Tuesday and Wednesday, as we go from left to right, you can see pretty poor in the lower elevation basin areas, but fairly good across the middle and higher terrain once you get above any low-level surface dispersion areas. Best will be on Wednesday. Precipitation over the next 3 days. It'll be basically Monday through Thursday. You can see just light amounts through here, a couple hundredths to a tenth of an inch. Exceptions will be western Wyoming, where a half inch to 3/4 of an inch is possible, especially again across the mountains of central Idaho, and that could translate to 5 to 10 inches of new snowfall. Looking down the road for Thursday, we see high pressure overhead. This will be our driest day across the Great Basin, but another strong front coming through. Dispersion again, strongest or worst across Nevada and into Idaho. Better as you head further south and east. And then once again to Friday, Again, we start seeing more of a less high pressure, more of a zonal west to east flow. So notice how much dispersion improves on Friday with the ventilation index. Lots more areas in white and yellow, very few areas in the purple. By Saturday, we start to see maybe another front coming through, some precipitation, a stronger front offshore. Still not too many areas in the purple here on the right. And then with Sunday, we see a storm system pushing through into parts of the Great Basin, especially Nevada and Idaho, and into western Utah. So again, pretty good dispersion overall. The limitation will be ground heating, but winds aloft should be fairly good. Not much precipitation in days 4 through 5, Friday through Sunday morning, but there could be more as you go from Sunday into early next week. We see that on the 8 to 14 day outlook, which takes us from Christmas Eve on the 24th to the 30th. Cooler than normal temperatures centered across the Great Basin, and we are expecting wetter than normal conditions. December being a fairly wet month, this means that a return to more significant precipitation is likely. This concludes our briefing. Have a great day.